The last time humans were on the moon, HBO had just started transmitting on cable TV. Pong's arcade version was just introduced to the world, and scientists developed the first compact disc. A lot has changed since then, but humanity hasn't yet sent back astronauts to our friendly neighborhood satellite until now. Gracefully named the Artemis mission, NASA is now planning to send back astronauts to Luna over 50 years after the last time we humans saw the surface of the moon. This would work hand in hand with the recent reveal of moon samples at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston that were stowed away from our last visit to the moon, giving us more insight on what we could expect on the moon, along with a host of other partnerships and allegiances with private outlets that will play a crucial role in the efficiency and effectiveness of this plan. But what is NASA's plan on returning to the moon? Welcome to Space Rumor. In today's video, we'll dive deep into NASA's recent plan on returning to the moon. The Artemis missions. The moon has always been of great interest to NASA and many scientists across the globe. NASA has distributed more than 500 Apollo lunar samples over the years to scientists around the world to analyze. With each passing year, several new scientific papers offer new research and information about what we've learned about the moon from these samples. NASA's Artemis project aims to return astronauts to the moon and will continue from where the Apollo missions left off by landing on the lunar South Pole by an estimated 2024. Although these missions are severely over budget and delayed, as the space agency's Inspector General warned, the project is a high priority for scientists at NASA, as the intent is to learn as much as possible about Luna. NASA was already working to return astronauts to the moon by 2028, but a couple of years ago, the White House insisted that NASA speed up the plans to 2024 instead. The planned 2024 mission, aptly named Artemis 3, will be the start of much greater plans for NASA. The intention is to use the Artemis missions and hope to establish a longer-term lunar presence, which could include establishing a lunar base camp for astronauts for up to 1 to 2 months on the moon's surface, and developing high-tech rovers to assist the astronauts in conducting lunar research. Pre-mission plans. NASA has implemented the President's Space Policy Directive, which is to lead an innovative and sustainable program of exploration with commercial and international partners to enable human expansion across the solar system. The space agency is also on the verge of commercializing low Earth orbit routes. With the help of partnerships in the private sector along with other nations, NASA's goal to go back to the moon isn't just about going there, it's about staying there. The U.S. has already begun creating strong relationships with other space-exploring agencies and leading a large group of countries and industries. NASA's motives to integrate commercial outlets into their process have been quite evident over the years, but now it shines brighter. The commercial resupply that's recently implemented by NASA enables American companies to restock the International Space Station along with NASA's Commercial Crew Program that seeks to integrate commercial spaceflight launches to and from U.S. soil, providing safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to low Earth orbit. And the space station, or the ISS, not to be mistaken with the ultra-conformist group from the Middle East. You know who I'm talking about. NASA's aim for deep space exploration will largely be supported by the biggest rocket ever built, the Space Launch System, the Orion spacecraft, and the Gateway Lunar Command Module, all currently in the works as we speak. Along with its partners, NASA will use the Gateway Lunar Command Module orbiting the moon as a sort of space terrace from where the missions will traverse and communicate. This module will allow astronauts to explore more parts of the lunar surface than ever before. In all hopes, this could be a massive collaboration between the private and government sectors with the unified resolve to further better our knowledge of what's around us, as well as aiming for the betterment of humanity as a whole. Unrealistic timelines. From the surface, these plans might seem foolproof, but there's much more to it than an itinerary. Speaking during a meeting of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology on March 1st, NASA Inspector General Paul Martin revealed several issues with the performance of private contractors Boeing and Lockheed Martin, addressing that industry contracts favor the companies at the agency's cost. Congress, on the other hand, recently released the 2022 federal budget, keeping NASA's yearly funds at $24 billion, a sum lower than what the agency had hoped for, but allocating more money towards the Artemis project than what NASA had originally requested. John Logsdon, a professor emeritus at the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University and founder of the university's Space Policy Institute, says that the issues with Artemis have been well known and frequently discussed, and delved deep into by the space community for a long time. 3 years ago, Vice President Mike Pence announced 2024 as Artemis's accelerated goal to return humans to the moon. That date was never realistic. It was a political artifact, he went on to mention. Several reliable reports published last year explained the same complaints raised in the March committee meeting. A spokesperson for the Office of the Inspector General said, in November 2021, NASA's Inspector General reported that Artemis has experienced 3 years of delays and cost increases of $4.3 billion for the 3 key programs: Space Launch System, Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, and Exploration Ground Systems. The same vessels and modules we spoke about earlier. Then, President Donald Trump signed the Space Policy Directive in late 2017, which explored new lunar missions planned to begin in 2025 at the earliest. The space community around the world thought 2028 was more reasonable for the first launch, but then in 2019, it was announced that the missions would begin even earlier than 2024. That's a lot more than an unrealistic timeline that's the problem here. There's an over-budget part as well. Over-budget. Over-budget and overdue projects aren't uncommon for all big government research and development programs. Agencies like the U.S. Department of Defense and Department of Energy have similar issues, but when compared to the recently launched James Webb Space Telescope that ended up costing $10 billion after initiating with a promising goal of $1 billion to $3.5 billion, the Artemis missions are only slightly over budget, according to Logsdon. Although those stats are correct, there are varied points that the space community is actively discussing. One is that NASA isn't transparent about Artemis's costs and how there isn't a big, clear program cost or even an explicit single journey cost. Instead, all the costs are divided among different projects supporting the mission. Talking about the Inspector General, Marcia Smith, the editor of Space Police Online, discussed in a report. He's an auditor. He's trying to pull it all together. NASA disagrees with how the costs were tallied, but with a project this big, it's fair that Congress should know what they're getting themselves into. We're not too sure how much of an impact this report will make, but the Inspector General's office produces excellent reports. It's just that they don't really add anything new to the table, according to Smith. The Artemis program has a long, complicated history, but currently, Congress is committed and things might not change anytime soon. The Artemis missions are an extension of a Bush-era space program started in 2004, which then became the Constellation program, which then became Artemis. As the names changed, the goals weren't always the same. The U.S. could have prioritized a crewed mission to Mars. In June 2019, Trump had talked about going to Mars instead of the Moon, but was convinced that the Moon should be the first destination. Trump decided to reinsert the Moon as a destination when he signed Space Policy Directive 1. This directed NASA to explore the Moon and other parts of the solar system first, focusing more on our Luna with long-term plans to travel to Mars. NASA's intentions. All that said and done, the intentions of NASA are pretty simple. to go to the moon with commercial and international partners to explore faster and more together. This work, apart from bringing in new knowledge and opportunities, will inspire the generations to come and will work as a platform for years of upgrades, technological prowess, and future plans. In going to the moon, NASA is laying the foundation that will eventually allow human exploration of Mars. The moon will provide a proving ground to test technologies and resources that will take humans to Mars and beyond, including building sustainable, reusable architecture. When we return to the moon, we will build upon the hard work of the hundreds of thousands of people that were assigned to the Apollo missions and have since advanced human spaceflight. NASA's Artemis missions to the moon are gearing forward as we speak and are preparing humanity for revolutionary missions to Mars and other deep space destinations. As we approach the 50th anniversary of Apollo 17 towards the end of this year, NASA is en route to the moon and beyond. So, what are your thoughts on the Artemis missions? When do you think we'll be able to set foot on the moon? And what destinations do you think we'll travel to after? Tell us in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching Space Rumor.